Okay, so let's go ahead and let's just kind of start talking about um, the Z-sphere approach, because I think that'll be a good place to kind of start. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and set up my canvas. I just went over to the document, made it double because my actual screen's a little bit bigger than the canvas needs to be, or the canvas isn't as big as my screen is, I should say. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go over to my tools. I'm going to grab a Z-sphere and I'm going to draw it on. Okay, so I'm going to go and click on edit too, so we can go and start working on this. So this is a Z-sphere. Okay, this guy we can click and drag, and you see with this little bump, there's a secondary sphere pops up right here, and there's a bone in between it. That's referred to a bone when you get into rigging. It'll make more sense, but you see these two little circles, those will be referred to as kind of like joints, because there's a bend that could be created there, and then the straight area between them is a bone. Think of it like that. The Z-sphere can be pulled up, it can be moved around. We can draw additional Z-spheres, just like that, and then move however we want to, okay? And you can start kind of building things up that way. Let me back up a little bit. One thing we really want to do is when we're making really any type of character or anything like that, we want to make sure that we're modeling basically facing down the correct axis. So if you look right here, you'll see the little head up in the upper right-hand corner of the canvas. That head's facing to the right. If I roll and snap and shift, you'll see that the head suddenly is facing the camera. So we're facing down what would be referred to as the Z-axis, okay? And that's good, that's what we want. So as we're gonna be creating bipedal characters, something to consider is you want to spend your time modeling in the most intelligent way possible. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that you do not model, or you do not have to model more than you actually need to. So if you have a character that has, let's say, um, it's symmetrical on the left and right sides, it's not generally a good idea to model the left and right sides differently, or take, model one side and go and model the other side. We have a digital tool, it can do that automatically for us. So we can do what's called turning on symmetry. I'm going to hit X on my keyboard, which I don't have a keyboard, I'm actually using a tablet, but if I had a keyboard, it'd be X. And that actually turns on symmetry for us, okay? In case you want to know, you can go to transform, activate symmetry, and you can tell it whichever direction you want it to go. In this case, we want the symmetry go across the X axis, okay? From positive to negative. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting together a mannequin. So I'm going to go and create a new joint using the draw. I'm going to switch over to move. By the way, if you want keyboard shortcuts, Q is draw, W is move, E is scale, R is rotate. FYI. So this will be, say, my abdominal area, lower area. I'm going to use scale, and I'm drawing down from the joint. See, it scales it up. I'm going to move it over. I'm going to go back to draw, and I want to put in a couple of new joints. Like that. And kind of move them where we want to. I want to add in maybe a few joints right here. I'm going to go and tap in a couple times. You do want to be careful though, because if you get joints kind of sitting on top of each other, it actually will cause problems when you turn it into a mesh that you want to sculpt on top of. A slight curve in that spine. Now, with Z-spheres, you don't have to be terribly detailed, but you do want to get the idea of mass kind of in here. So if there's, if it's a large character, you want to go in and kind of make that body a little bit bigger, and like the torso, the chest area, the thighs, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and make some legs. Now I'm starting off with the hip joints, and then these will go down. Kind of where the feet are going to be. And this will be all right. These can be the basically the balls of the feet, and then we can do some toes. And notice with a lot of these limbs, I'm not just pulling them straight out of the body. I'm doing a base Z-sphere, and then I'm pulling from that base Z-sphere. The reason why is because you see as I pull this out, I may not want that big fat toe. I may not want that. What I might want is something more, a little bit skinnier, like that. Now I know this isn't shaped like a foot. We will get it shaped like a foot eventually. That'll come when you're working more on the sculpting. This is really, again, just building up a mannequin that we can sculpt on top of. So something like that. Do the same thing for the arms. Oh, looking a little weird, doesn't it? Then you do the same thing with hands, just kind of build them up. Now with mannequins, bipedal characters, you want to focus on giving them a neutral position. Neutral pose would be something like the T pose, or a modified A pose. A pose would be like the T pose, where your arms are held straight out from the sides of your body, but they're brought down almost like the letter A, okay? Another thing to think about is you want to make sure that the arms are physically able to be in the position you're actually drawing them in. So right now, I have the arms at a weird kind of cockeyed like that. That's not natural, at least not for humans. You want to make sure that you give them a fairly natural pose, and you also want to bend the elbows and knees just slightly, just very, very slightly. Actually, this guy. This guy has a thumb. I'm actually going to put that little thumb right there. something like that. Again, you want to go with fairly natural poses. With a slight bend at each joint. So the thumb, there would be the base joint and the mid joint. Fingers, if you're doing humanoid, there will be 1, 2, 3 bends. 1, 2, and 3. Just very gently bend them. Okay, you go for natural. Crazy gestures or anything. It just needs to be kind of gentle. Like you just hold your hand out and then relax. It's that kind of pose is what we're looking for. The reason why is because that's going to be easier to rig. So if we have that finger straight out, when we rig it, there's going to be a little bit more deformation when the fingers need to bend and curl. If we kind of go halfway in between where the fingers are relaxed, easier to get into a fist, and it's easier to stretch them out fully in terms of deformation of the mesh. Have a little bit of muscle mass if we need it. Yeah. So here we go. All right, that's for the head. A little bit. That's going to kind of like the base of the neck. Head. Honestly, for the features of the head, unless it's like something like horns or something like that, I would not really worry. You know, if it's going to be more human, just kind of leave it as a sphere. You can sculpt in all of that. Not really a big deal. Okay, there you go. What do you do with this? So, if you're finished with this and you're happy, let's go with adaptive skin. We can preview it. You'll see the different controls here. See density. That basically means how many subdivisions it'll be given once you actually make it. Dynamesh resolution, that means how many faces it's going to be Dynamesh to. Generally, I kind of like to keep these fairly low. So I think I want to keep that density down to 1. I'm going to hit preview. And so it says 1.096 million. I don't really want that. There we go. So I brought that Dynamesh resolution down to 0. And you'll see it brought the active points to 1100. Much, much easier to work with as a starting base mesh. You bring it up. You'll see you go back to 240. It's going to take it up to nearly 900,000. So that's quite high. We don't necessarily need that. Yeah, so I'm just going to take it down to 0. Click make adaptive skin, and then be like, okay, nothing happened. Well, something did happen. You look right here, you have a new Z tool, and this is your base mesh. This guy's ready to go. He's ready to sculpt. You can subdivide him. You can start sculpting on him. You can run a Dynamesh on him. Yeah, he's good to go. So that's what you would start sculpting with. All right, I'm going to move over to the other approach and we'll move on from there. But this is your base match at this point.